The views expressed are not necessarily those of KSCJ and Powell Broadcasting Company. This program is not intended to replace the advice of doctors or other clinical providers. Consult with your practitioner to ensure the proper course of action for you.
Welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well on AM 1360, FM 94.9 KSCJ. This program is dedicated to your mental health wellness and brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency. Here's your host, Art Silva.
Good morning, Siouxland. I'm Art Silva, and welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well. This show is dedicated to your mental wellness and how you can help yourself navigate the daily highway of life. We hope to educate and motivate you to help improve your mental wellness environment. Our show is brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency serving the Siouxland community. Today, our topic is ADHD across the lifespan. And joining me today is Brenda Geisinger, Chief Operating Officer of Boys and Girls Home and Family Services, and licensed therapist Sandy Jacobson. Good morning, Brenda and Sandy.
Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome to the show. Okay, first, before we get going, ladies, tell us a little bit about yourself. So, Sandy, do you want to go first?
Well, I'm a clinical therapist at Family Services, and I see people through the lifespan. I see children through adults.
Okay. Brenda?
I'm the Chief Operating Officer. I've been there for 33 years, and I oversee the day-to-day operations.
You got an awful lot to oversee, too, because Brenda also covers the residential treatment, and that's where we have our children 365, 24/7. And Sandy is in the outpatient department. So I guess we could say we have a lot of clients that we're covering and working with here in Siouxland, and we're glad to be able to do that. Today our topic is ADHD across the lifespan. So the first thing we're going to do is define ADHD. Sandy?
ADHD is a disorder that can affect individuals and children throughout the lifespan, and it's characterized by inattention and or hyperactivity and impulsivity. What's important to know is that ADHD is a developmental disorder, which is usually diagnosed in childhood, but can be diagnosed at any time in adolescence or adulthood.
Now, as we get started, I want to get unconfused. Is there a difference between ADHD and ADD?
The term ADD is no longer really used.
So one of the biggest difference is ADHD has the part of someone being impulsive, and in addition to being inattentive, whereas what was known as ADD, they just struggle with the inattention. They don't necessarily are hyperactive.
Interesting. Now, I sit corrected on that one because I've heard the term used a lot. I just want to make sure we use it correctly. Okay, is there a cure?
There is no cure for ADHD, but what there is there are interventions that can help people to learn the coping strategies and how to manage your life, as well as using medication. And medication can be prescribed by a psychiatrist, a family physician, and a psychiatric nurse practitioner or a psychiatric physician's assistant.
I think it's one of those diagnoses that a lot of people have heard of, but they don't necessarily understand it.
Right.
So one of the things that I like to explain to people, if you think of a road that has the broken line, it's really how an ADHD mind kind of works. Their line isn't connected. It's not one straight thought. They have breaks. They might think about this topic, and then they skip and jump to another topic. And so if you put it in those terms, they need that straight line, the no pass, to kind of keep their thoughts going. It helps people kind of conceptualize what's going on. Or if you go to a restaurant and there's 100 TVs playing at once and all this conversation, and you try to focus just on one thing, someone with ADHD will really, really struggle with that. And it's kind of similar what they go through every moment of their life. 100 TVs going on at once with conversation and just really trying to get it all together.
That's an interesting way of describing it because I can relate to that. You just try to follow everything, and obviously this impacts the concentration. You get a lot of a little, as opposed to really focusing on something. Hey, I'm Art Silva, and you're listening to When Things Aren't Going Well. And with me today from Family Services is Brenda Geisinger and Sandy Jacobsma. And we are discussing ADHD across the lifespan. Let me ask you, ladies, are there different subtypes of ADHD?
There are. We now define it as predominantly inattentive type, the person who's just distracted and can be disorganized. Then we have predominantly hyperactivity, impulsive type, and then you have predominantly combined type. So you see both the impulsiveness and the difficulty focusing and concentrating.
Brenda, let me ask you this, and this goes over to our residential area. Is this something common that we would see there?
Yes, it's very common. I think a lot of our children experience that. I think there are a lot of children in our school districts as well and in the community. And some people may not even know that's what the problem is or what they need help with and how to get others to recognize that. I think a lot of times when kids have ADHD, others may see them as misbehaving. We've got bad parents who don't know how to discipline their kids, or they're really struggling in school. What's going on? They just can't grasp a concept. And so it's really paying attention to all that information, and maybe there's something else going on, and really taking a look at that.
Well, let's help the parents here. Let's talk about one of these types. Let's talk about the impulsive type, and what should parents be looking for as signs that they may want to follow up on.
One of the things you can be looking for is the child who is like a motor that never stops going. They're just always on the go. They're busy from the time they get up to when they go to sleep, and that can be difficult just to calm your system down to go to sleep. They talk a lot, and in school they may be blurting out. They have difficulty just functioning in the classroom. And for adults, it's the same thing. It can be interruptive in your work, just trying to stay on task and, interacting with people. And so it can be disruptive across the lifespan that way.
If we take a look at, you mentioned in adults, and we're talking about the lifespan of ADHD. And on the adult side, as you continually get more into society and you grow with your job and your family, this has an effect on other parts of your life and other people.
Yes, it does. It can affect you at work, at home, how you function in your relationships with others. It just has that, it encompasses your whole, world that you're operating in.
Now, when you're suffering through this impulsive ADHD, do you feel like you're getting stuff done because you got so much coming at you, or is just a constant frustration that you got a bunch of loose pieces?
I think it can go either way. And I think one of the things with ADHD is if they are in a quiet area and working on something, they can be super focused, like hyper focused and very creative. And if you turn it into a positive and work with that, it can be really quite exhilarating. They have a lot of energy, a lot of creativity. Justin Timberlake, Ty Pennington, they're both ADHD, and they have learned how to channel that creativity and energy for their jobs and being very creative in what they do. If you don't learn how to have those coping skills and organization, Valentine's Day just happened and you can kind of miss your sweetheart and not give him a gift. Well, that happens all the time with ADHD. You might forget, to pick up
you got
that
an excuse
bread.
out there, guys. You hear that?
But it's very true. It can really impact, you tell your significant other something and they forget, quite honestly. They honestly forgot, got distracted from 2 minutes ago. And it can cause a lot of arguments or disrespect is a belief, and hard feelings. So it's really recognizing that and learning how to cope with it.
Well, let's talk about that's one type, and that's the impulsive type. What about the inattentive?
The inattentive type is for children. You see the kids that may be daydreaming and just hard to focus. The teacher can be talking and they're looking out the window. And the same at home. They're just not focused on what you would like them to be focused on doing their task. And that's the same in adolescence. So school can be really difficult, or other tasks. For adults, it can really interfere with life. You could be at work and have 3 different projects going and never be able to complete one because you just get distracted. Oh, now I have to do work on this one, but it never gets completed. And then you can look at the other. And often then at home you have lots of tasks that you start, but a lot of them never get finished.
Hey, we're coming up on our break, so this is a great discussion. We'll come back to the types. So we'll be right back here on 1360 KSCJ with more of When Things Aren't Going Well.
Let's face it, that happens to all of us. However, the pandemic has compounded all of our lives and activities. Even the simplest tasks seem harder. Hi, I'm Brenda Geisinger, the Chief Operating Officer at the Boys and Girls Home and Family Services. Family Services is a United Way partner agency serving children and families of our community, and we're here to help. If you'd like to learn more about Family Services, please contact us via email, website, Facebook, or phone Mary Pickens. At Family Services, we change lives.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well on KSCJ. Here's Art Silva.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well. I'm Art Silva along with Brenda Geisinger and Sandy Jacobsmith from Family Services. And let's continue our discussion on ADHD across the lifespan. We've talked about some of the subtypes of ADHD. We talked about the inattentive. We've talked about the impulse. And now there's a third one out there, the combination. So, Sandy, Brenda, let me turn that back over to you.
The combination can be really difficult because you're dealing with both the impulsiveness as well as struggling with your inattentive part, the ability to get things done. So you could look like you're in motion and having a hard time to settle down to focus, and then you're having difficulty focusing. And like we have said, you need organizational skills. You need to learn a lot of different skills. And that's where, it's really important that you start to learn that organization, how to slow your mind down, these coping strategies that can help you be successful, because you can be with this disorder.
Well, you just touched on something, just being the Super Bowl was just last week. Let's talk about the being able to slow your mind down. A lot of good professional athletes, the key that what they work on is slowing it down, slowing the game down.
Yeah.
They're able to slow the game down. Now, in our past shows, we've discussed the importance of a routine. So I can only put one and one together. The routine must be extremely important for someone suffering with ADHD. Yes? No?
Yes, that is true.
I think routine is one of the key things. Even if you are prescribed medications for ADHD, it's not just that. You have to have routine, you have to have systems, and you have to take care of your body, getting enough sleep, eating the right foods, and having that structure.
I remember a child that we had at one time, and this is part of my education with ADHD. She was severely affected to the point where it affected her ability to sleep. And in her inability to sleep, it kept the family up. So now it's going through the whole family. This was a success story. We were able to help this family, educate the dad, work with the child, and it came out a real good success story. So I think there are ways, but when you think about ADHD, you see the individual, but the impact it has on everybody around him or her. It's just it's a bigger picture than what you look at, and it's usually the cause of a lot of other problems that don't get recognized. This was caused by ADHD. So, any comments?
It can be as simple as, telling your child, go clean your room. And they have all good intentions of doing that. They go into their room and you go on checking on them in like 10, 15 minutes and you see them playing Legos and making a bigger mess. And then you step on a Lego and ba-boom, the fight starts and they get grounded and they start crying. And then, the dog is barking and the whole day is ruined. And so breaking it down for them and say, for the next 5 minutes, can you pick up your Legos? And let them do that. And then let them go release some energy. And then have them come back and do another part of that. Because a big task with no expectations or boundaries is very overwhelming for them. And it's way too many things coming at once. And so if you break it down into small bites, and then give them a break so their mind can just run, that's helpful for a lot of families.
This could also be a big problem in school. And when do you realize it, that the child just can't seem to get past this learning difficulty, if you want to call it that, and being able to succeed? And it's not the child or even the adult's fault.
Correct.
It's one of these things that when their coping systems break down, there has to be a greater sensitivity, I think, out there by the general public. Like, they're not trying to do this. This is intentional. Maybe they can't help what they're doing right now. And that kind of patience and acceptance, I think, goes a long way to understand what really is the root of the problem here, especially in families.
That's really correct, because so many people think, well, you can just control these things. You're doing it purposely to annoy us or to bother us. You're not a hard worker. And there's a litany of things. And like Brenda said, the kids that get in trouble. But it's the same for adults in the workplace. When you're not finishing your work, your boss is going to be on you. And so it's really important that you look at what's really going on in the individual. Is it possibly ADHD, or is it something else going on? So it's really important to look at the symptoms and what is happening in the person's life. Because sometimes we can just get really off balance because of stress and additional things in our life.
Not to be confused with something else that may be causing a problem. So I get it, and I see this. Okay, what type of treatment is available? I mean, people go through, it's a lifespan, so we start with as children, and we got 3 different types, and rolling that all together, starting, let's say, as an adolescent and rolling into adulthood, what type of treatment there's no cure for this, so what type of treatment's available?
A lot of times parents and adults want to first start with seeing, can they do the organizational skills? Can they get coping strategies in place? Can they help the adolescent learn to stop and think before they act? And those are all really good interventions. And for some people, that's all you do need to do, is that they can do that. When those things aren't working is really when you need to look at a combination of those strategies along with medication, because one without the other is not going to be sufficient.
So it's not just go medicate. You heard that a lot in school, and I just give them this, give them that. No, there are skills that go along with it to hopefully minimize the use of medication. So you're saying it's a hand in hand. They go both together.
Right.
Excellent. And success, have we had success with that?
Oh, yes. There's lots of success.
How about adults? Let's talk a little more about the adults. What type of constructive change do we see with adults who follow their therapy and, if applicable, medication? Show it work? Does it show it at home, families?
I find it very interesting. Quite often there are adults that have this and don't realize it.
Okay.
So they may be in jobs and they keep losing jobs, and their house is total disarray and just constant chaos going on with them. And it may take someone approaching them and really having a sit down kind of conversation of what's going on. Or they may feel their life is out of control and start therapy, and it comes to light of what's going on with them. There's some assessments we can do to really take a look at that, whether it is impacting them or not. It's not something that just starts. You tend to have it. Your brain just isn't working as it should to help you function. And adults that maybe recognize they had this when they were younger, hopefully have developed skills and ways to manage it, and also potentially having to take medication. Those that are just unaware they have this, they may have to start from ground zero and learn coping skills and learn how to effectively manage things. And also finding routine schedules and a job that works for them. If you have ADHD, sitting behind a desk, working at a computer all day may not be the career choice for you, because you just can't sit still. It may be an outside activity. It may be something, in retail, whatever the case may be, finding what fits for you and how you're going to work best.
And the outcome of that, if it's not successful, results in a poor performance record at work and everything else when you really aren't treating the real problem. So as people, our listening audience today, if you see these things coming up and you know of people, that could use this kind of help. There are programs out there that do fix this, and it could be from childhood on to adulthood. So learned an awful lot today, and I really appreciate it, Sandy and Brenda, for sharing with us. We're coming up on the end of our show for this week, and as you know, we always want to leave you with a little humor, a little mental wellness for your mental wellness. So here's our joke today. When the new patient was comfortably on the couch, the psychiatrist began his therapy session. I'm not sure of your problem, so perhaps you should start at the beginning. Of course, the patient said. In the beginning, I created the heavens and the earth. Okay, we'll get started on that one. Listen, it's been great. Again, Brenda and Sandy, thank you very much for joining us today. And our listening audience. Shout-outs to Heather Hennings and her All-Star United Way staff for exceeding their campaign goal. Kudos to volunteer campaign chairs from Tyson, Paul Connor, Kelly Creasy, Chad Jensen for their campaign leadership. We'll be back next Saturday morning at 7 o'clock right here on 1360 AM, 94.9 FM, KSCJ. And our topic will be active parenting. Don't forget to do your homework this week and go out and have a good laugh. It's good for the soul. Have a great week, and may the sun shine on you.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
For more information on the services provided by Boys and Girls Home and Family Services, see them online at boysandgirlshomeiowa.org. Or you can call 712-293-4700 to get more information about family services, residential treatment, the Opportunity School, the Siouxland Family Center, and more. At Boys and Girls Home and Family Services, we change lives. We change lives. We change lives.